Okay, so this afternoon we are going to look at a very special type of functions. Now, these are functions we have looked at, but this type of functions are what are called methods. We have looked at these, some of these, I think if not all of them, are in a different context in terms of how you do certain things when we were looking at lists and tuples. So this time around, we're trying to look at things in terms of functions, as being a function being a piece of code which actually does something. Now, when it comes to lists and tuples, they are certain functions you can only use with lists. Okay? There are certain functions you can only use with lists. And there are also certain functions you can only use with tuples. These functions you can only use with a specific type of data or a specific type of object. These are what are called methods. A normal Python function, you can use it with anything else. For example, the print function. You can use the print function. You can use the print function to print a list. You can use a print function to print a tuple. You can use the print function to print a dictionary. You can use the print function to print a string. Or you can use a print function to print a number. So, print is a function, and functions normally can be used with different types of objects. Okay, like lists, numbers, strings, tuples, dictionaries. So you can use the print function to do all sorts of things. Okay. Now, when it comes to methods, methods, on the other hand, are not so much. You can't use them on different things. Okay, but you can only use methods with a specific, with a particular type of object. So in our case, this afternoon, we're going to look at methods which you can use with lists, which is a list object, and also methods which you can use with tuples. So basically, that's what you're going to look at. And you'll notice that there's a difference in how methods are used. How do you call a method? Basically, it starts with the object you want to use the method on. So you type out the name of the object, then you put a dot, then you type out the name of the function or the method you want to use. So basically, that's what you're going to see. So Python comes with 11 methods you can use with Python, with a list. 11 built-in methods which are used with lists. And those methods, that's what you're going to do here. We're going to print them out. So here, using this bit, dir, so the dir function, then you give it the name of the object you're interested in. So it's going to give you what kind of functions or method you can use with that particular thing. So in our case here, these are the functions we're interested in, or the methods we're interested in, which are here. So these ones we have highlighted here. There's something called append, there's something called clear, there's something called copy, there's something called count, there's something called extend, there's something called index, there's something called insert, pop, remove, reverse, sort. So basically, as the name suggests, you can do an append to a list, you can add things to a list. Clear, you can remove things from a list, you can clear, empty the list, or you can make a copy of a list. You can also count, this count thing, you can count how many times a particular item exists in lists. You can extend a list, make it longer by using another list. You can index, you can find the position of an item or a value or an item in a list. Then insert, you can insert an item at this before a specified index in a list. Pop, this is what you use for removing a value from a list as a specified position. Then remove is what you use to remove a particular value. Then reverse, it basically reverses the list. Then sort will sort your list. So basically, for us to see how these functions work, what you're going to do is we're going to create a list. Then after creating a list, we will try to use this particular function. So in this case here, Moppy is trying to log in and failing. I don't know why. Okay, so in this particular case, we are going to create a list, an empty list, and the name of this empty list, we're going to call it cars. So that's what we're going to do. So we create an empty list, as you can see here. So we know how to create a list by this time. Then of course we print the list using the print function. So we print cars, And as you can see, there's nothing in cars. So the next thing we're going to do is we'll try to use the append method. Now the append method, basically what it does is it adds append method, the list append method, the list append method adds to a list, adds an item or an element to the end of a list. Okay, so in this case here, we'll try to get help on append. Get help on list append method. So what does it do? So this is how you get help. If you have got some method you've seen, then you want to find out how do you use this particular method. So basically the way you do that is by using the help function. Then in this help function you give it this. So the particular object you're interested in, then you put a dot, then the name of the method, in this case append. So you're saying help lists, so you enter in list, then the method you're interested in is append. So when you do that, this is what you get. So you get an explanation. Append objects to end of a list. So basically that's what append does. Append is going to add something you've given it to the end of a list. So in this case, so we have seen what it does, append method to end of a list. So in this case, what do we do? So append object to the end of a list. So what do we do? So what we want to do now, we want to append this value, BMW, this string BMW, to this list cars. So how do you do that? So you start with the name of the list, cars, then you put a dot. So this is always how you use methods. You start with the name of the object. In this case, the name of the object is cars. Here, you start with cars, that's the name of the list, which is the object. Then you put a dot, then the name of the method, which is append. Then what is it you want to append? You want to append BMW to your empty list. At the moment, it's empty cars, like that. So when you run this, like that, then you print out cars again. You see that now your list has got a value in it called BMW. If you want to append another value, Audi, so you start with the name of the list, which is cars, then you put a dot, then append, then the value you want to append, like that. So you have to do that. Then when you print out cars, now you have got, after BMW, there is Audi. Now the thing with append is append can only add one value at a time. Are we clear? Append only adds one value at a time to your list. Okay, so if you want to append Ford, the value Ford, so you start with the name of the list, then you put a dot, then append, then Ford, like that. Okay, then you print out your cars. Now you have got Ford being added at the end. If you want to add Kia here, append Kia to the end of the list, you do that. So cars dot append, then the value you want to add is Kia, then you print out cars. There it is. Now Kia has been added at the end. If you want to add Mazda, similarly, at the end of the list, you do that. Mazda has been added at the end of your list. If you want to add Hyundai, whichever one you're comfortable with, so you start with the name of the list, then you put a dot, then you append, which is the method, then the value you want to append, like that. Then you do that. So this is what you have. So your list now has BMW, Audi, Ford, Kia, Mazda, and Hyundai. Okay, so basically this is how you add items to your list one at a time. So if you've got a list, empty list, then you want to add stuff to your list one at a time, you can use the append function, the append method, by adding values one at a time. However, sometimes you want to add, you don't want to add one item at a time, but you want to add more than one item. So in that case, that's where the extend method comes in. So you've got another list which you want to add to another list, then you can use extend. So what does extend do? So we're going to get some help on extend. Get help on list. So you have to extend the list. So if you already have another list, you want to make that particular list longer, so you can use extend. So what does extend do? So how do you get help? So again, we use the help function, Then inside you give it lists, then you put a dot, then the name of the method you want, who's on what you need help on. So here extend says extend lists by appending elements from an iterable. This iterable is basically another list. It can be a list, or it can be a tuple, it can be anything. Okay, this self here refers to the list itself you are trying to add things to. Okay, so basically that's what extend is. So here we create another list of cars, a bunch of cars, a lot of them, Daewoo, Honda, Mercedes, Land Rover, Holden, Acura, Toyota, Suzuki, Nissan, Fiat, Mini, Mitsubishi, Lexus, Infiniti, Chery, Rowe, Jag, Peugeot, Ferrari, Renault, Citroen, Bugatti, VW, Auto, Aston Martin, McLaren, Bentley, Jaguar, GMC. So basically this is a list of cars, as you can see. If you print out this list of cars called other cars, this is what you have. So what we want to do is we want to add this whole list of cars. We want to add it to our list cars. So how do you do that? So you start with the list cars. This is where we want to add our things, cars. Then you put a dot. Then after that dot, you have extend. Then in this extend function, you give it the list you want to add, this other list which you want to add to the other list. In this case, our other list is these other cars. So with these other cars are going to be added to this list of cars. That's what's going to happen. So when you do this, when you run it, okay, fine. Now when we now print out our cars, and this is what we end up having. This is what we end up having. So you can see our list of cars has grown. Previously, it only went up to just here, Hyundai, but now it includes all these other cars, brands, which we got from the other lists. Are we clear on how you extend your list using another list, using the extend method?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, as you can see, our cars, they are not really in any order. It's just a bunch of things, no alphabetical order or stuff like that. So if you want to sort out your list, okay, you want to sort out your list so that things appear to be in an order, maybe alphabetically, then there's a method, a list method you can use called sort. And that's what it actually does exactly what the name says. It will sort out things. So in this case, let's see how we can get help on sort. So get help on list method, list sort method, sort method. So on sort method. So here again, you use the help function, then the name of the object. In this case, we're looking at lists, and the method you are trying to look at is sort. So if you run that, it will give you a small explanation of what sort does. So here, so sort the list in ascending order and return none. So basically, with this guy, it doesn't get anything. Basically, you don't give it anything. There's just this self, meaning the list itself. Then of course, there's nothing here. This is set to none. Then the reverse is set to false. So basically, you don't give it anything. You just tell it, okay, I want to use this sort on this particular list, and it's going to do it. So in this case, since the sort doesn't get anything, as you can see, we don't give it anything. So we say the list we want to sort is cars. Then what do we want to do with cars? We want to sort it. So you say cars.sort. When you do this, okay, you don't see anything, as if nothing has changed, but something has changed when you print cars. Now you see it has changed. It starts with Acura alphabetically, then Audi, Aston Martins, then Bentley, Bugatti, BMW, Chery, Citroen, Daewoo, Ferrari, Fiat, Ford, GMC, Holden, Honda, Hyundai, Infiniti, Jaguar, Kia, Land Rover, Lexus, McLaren, Mazda, Mercedes, Mini, Mitsubishi, Nissan, Peugeot, Renault, Rowe, Suzuki, Toyota, VW Auto. So you can see now all the items, all the car brands which are in the list cars have been sorted alphabetically. Are we clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so that's how you would use sort. It doesn't get anything, any values. Basically, it will just work like that. Okay. The other thing you can do is you can do a reverse. If you've got a list like the one we have, but you want the list to start from the other way around. So basically that's what a reverse is. So it reverses the order of the list. If you want to reverse the order of the list, you can also do that. And how do you reverse the order of the list? So let me copy this. So you can, by using a method called reverse. So reverse does not sort anything. The only thing it does is it changes the order in which things are in your list, starting from last to end to first. So you do that kind of thing here. So reverse, again, how do you find out help on how a particular method works? So you type help, then of course the list keyword, then the method you're interested in, which is reverse, like that. So basically this one, it says reverse in place. So you do last, first, last, like that kind of stuff. So we have cars here, as you can see. It starts with Acura, Audi, then Austin. Then at the end, you've got VW, Toyota, and stuff like that. So when you do that, cars.reverse, when you do cars.reverse there, then we print out cars. Then you see now it starts with VW, then Toyota, Suzuki, the Rawi. Then these Audi, Acura, and Austin Martin are at the end like that. So they've been reversed. So if you want to do another reverse, you can always do it. You can reverse a list as many times as you want. So you can start with cars, the name of the list you want to reverse, then what you want to do a reverse like that. Then again, you print out your cars. When you print out your cars, your list cars is back to what it was before. Are we clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so you can do this if that's what you want to do. The other thing you can do, of course, is you want the position. What is the index of a particular value or item in your list? So if you want to find the position or the index of a particular item in your list, there is a method which does that. It gives you the index of a value. So in this case, that method is the index method. So the index method, what it needs from you is a value. You need to give it a value. So you can see our list of cars is here, and our first focus is on something called Fiat there. So you want to find out what is the index of Fiat. So in this case, we want help on what this index method does. So if you run this, it says return first index of value. So that's what it does. So you return the first index of a value. So a value might be in the list multiple times. Okay. So in that case, if it's multiple times, it's just going to give you the first time that value occurs. Otherwise, if the value occurs just once, it will also give you that. So in this case, we are looking for the index of Fiat. We have seen Fiat in that list of cars. So you start with the name of the list, then you put a dot. So this dot is very necessary. Then the name of the method, which is index, then the value you want, whose index you want to find. So you want to find the position of Fiat in the list of cars. In that case, you thought the position is, the index is 10. So if the index is 10, and if you recall that your index values in Python, they start from 0, so it means that if the index is 10, then Fiat must be the 11th item. Then you can also check out for Mini, what is the index position for Mini. So cars, the name of the list you're interested in, then Mini, then index, then the value is Mini. So in that case, Mini is, the index for Mini is 25. So Mini is the 26th item since its value is 25, index value is 25. You can also do the same for Kia. You want to find out what position is Kia. Kia is index value 19. So Kia is the 20th item in this particular list of cars. Are we clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so that's how you do that bit. Okay. Now, when you have created your list might not be final. You might still want to add things to your list. Okay. You might still want to add a couple of things to your list, and that's where this method called insert comes in. Now, insert method is used for, insert is different. It works different from append. Append only adds things at the end of the list. Always. Append, you put things at the end of the list. Always you put things at the end of the list. However, with insert, you tell Python the position before which you want to insert a value. Okay, so in this case, so what does insert? How do you, what is, say, okay, fine. So here it says insert object before index. So with insert, you need to give the value, the index before which a particular value is supposed to be inserted. Then you also need to give us the value which is supposed to be inserted at that particular index. Are we clear? So two things. You need to give us the index. The other one is you need to give us the value you want to insert at that particular index. Okay. So print the list, cars. You will need to give us the value you want to insert at a particular position. Okay, so here we print cars so that we can have a good update of what it is we have. Okay, fine. So this is our list of cars. Here it is. So what do you want to do now? We want to insert before index 0. Before this is index 0. This item here is index 0. Yes. Oh, go ahead. Yeah. So this index here is Acura. As you can see, Acura is the first item. Is the first item in this list of cars, and of course its index is 0. So what we are saying is before this index 0, we want to put Porsche, which is the name of the car. So basically in that case, Porsche is going to become the first item and Acura is going to be the second item. So in that case, if you do that, so we say the name of the list where you want to insert, the name of the list is cars. Then what is it you want to do? Then after that you put a dot. What is it you want to do? You want to do an insert. Then after that you want to give us the index, the position where you want to insert things. Then next, what value do you want to insert? Then in this case we want to insert Porsche. So if you do that, it runs. Then you print out your car. So you can see Porsche has been inserted as the first item in this list. Okay. Next, you have something called Subaru. You want to insert Subaru at index number 3. So in that case, it's going to be cars. That's the name of the list. Then you put a dot. Then the method insert. Then the index where you want to insert at index position 3. Then what do you want to insert there? You want to insert Subaru. Like that. You also want to insert another Subaru at index position 8. So you can insert the same value in different positions. So in this case, at index 8, you also want to insert Subaru. Then also at index 13, you want to insert Subaru. Then when you print, this is what you get. So you can see there is a Subaru here, which has been inserted here. There should also be another Subaru there, which has been inserted there. And where else is another Subaru? I think we inserted 3 Subarus. Yeah, there's another one here. So there's this one here, the first one. Then there is this one here, Subaru. Then there is that other one, this one, other one here, a Subaru, which has been inserted. So basically that's how insert works. So you need to you need to give us the position where you want to insert and the value you want to insert there. Are we clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Next, once you have done this insert, sometimes you also want to find out how many times a particular value exists in a list, and that's where the count method comes in. So the count method is there to count how many times a particular value exists in a list. Count method. So list.count. So here help list.count. So what does it do? Return. So here it tells you return the number of occurrences of a value. So that's what it tells. That's what help is. So basically, what it is you have to do is with count, you just give the value. Then Python is going to give you how many times this particular value exists in our list. For example, we inserted a Subaru inserted a number of times. So the list you're interested in is cars. Then you put a dot. Then what you want to do, you want to count. Then the value is the Subaru. So we want to count how many times Subaru exists in this list. So when you do that, you can see that Subaru exists 3 times in the list. There's also another thing called Fiat, a value called Fiat. You want to find out how many times also Chevrolet exists in this list. When you run that, it's not there. So if a particular item is not in the list, then you get a 0. But we know that Fiat is there. How many times does Fiat occur in that list? Fiat only occurs once. Are we clear? Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So basically that's how you would count how many times something exists in your list. You can also decide, with the list, you can also decide to make a copy of your list. So if you decide to make a copy of your list, there's a method you can use that. Because as you can see, if we look at our cars list, it's very, very long. It has become longer. It has grown. So instead of you retyping things bit by bit, there's a method called copy which you can use. So in this case, this one says copy car, I think, yeah. So here, list, that. What does copy do? Return a shallow copy of a list. So there's something called a shallow copy. So in this case, we're going to say copy cars. Not copy card, copy cars. Yeah, let's do copy cars. Or actually, let's do this. Copy cars. So do that. Copy cars. Yeah, there. So here you start with cars, then you put a dot, then copy. Then this copy, you want to store it in something called copy cars. Then you print list copy cars. Copy cars. So copy cars. So when you do that, you find that we have another list which looks exactly like the previous one which we had. So this is a quick way of making a copy of your list, so that sometimes you don't want to maybe change the original list. So maybe you want to play around with a copy, then this is a way of doing that. Okay, are we clear? So this is how you'd make a copy. Yeah, this is how you make a copy of your list. Next, you have a list, but then you want to remove everything from that list. You don't want to delete the list itself, because the list has got things. What you want to do is you want to empty the list. So if you want to empty the list, then you can use a method called clear. So clear, basically what it does is it removes all items from a list. So it does not delete the list, but it will remove all the items from that particular list. So in this case, we have got a list called, if you remind ourselves, let's print it, other cars, print list, other cars. So we've got a list called other cars, so we can print that. Okay, there. So this is a list other cars. So what we want to do is we want to remove everything in this list other cars without deleting the list itself. So we start with the list you want to, whose items you want, the name of the list, whose items you want to remove. So the name of the list is other cars. Then you put a dot, then you say clear. Now clear does not get any items. It's just clear itself like that. So when you run this, you run it, then you print other cars. When you print other cars, now you find other cars is now an empty. It's now an empty list. Are we clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you can also, there's the other one we have, copy cars. We just created something called copy cars there. So with copy cars, you say copy cars dot clear, then you print copy cars. After you clear everything, copy cars. You see again, it's also because it's now empty. It's not been deleted, but it's just empty. Are we clear? So it's very much possible.
Yes,
It's very much possible for you to remove things from your lists quickly. Okay. Now there is another method you can use to remove items one by one. So this one clear basically removes everything at a go. Maybe that's not what you want. Maybe what you want is to remove just a particular value from a list. So if you want to remove a particular value from the list, that's also possible. You just have to tell Python what value it is you want to remove, then it will remove it from the list. Okay, with the remove. So what does remove do? Remove the first occurrence of a value. Now this is very important. So it means that if a value occurs more than one time in the list, the first time remove will check the list. The first time it finds it, then it will remove it. If it occurs somewhere else, it will not remove it. So you have to do a remove again if you want to remove a value which occurs multiple times. So in this case, for example, if you want to, we know Subaru occurs in the list 3 times. So if we do a count here, return the number of occurrences of Subaru. So how many times does Subaru occur in this list? Subaru occurs 3 times. So next we want to remove the first occurrence of Subaru. So here, remove the first occurrence of Subaru. Remove the first occurrence of the value Subaru. Remove of value Subaru from list cars. Cars. There. So this one is going to do it. So it removes it. It doesn't say anything. Next. Here Subaru was occurring 3 times before we did the remove. Now when we do a count of Subaru, we'll do a count. We see how many times it's there. Now if we run the count, now you see that Subaru is only appearing 2 times. Are we clear? Then next we remove Subaru again. Remove the second occurrence of Subaru from list. So we do a remove. Oh, there it is. Here, I run this. Then I count how many times Subaru is there. Now it's only appearing once. Okay? Then I remove the last occurrence, since it's only appearing once. Remove the last occurrence. The last occurrence of Subaru from list cars. So I remove Subaru. Run that. Then I try to find out how many times it's there. I do a count of Subaru. Now it's no longer there because all 3 occurrences of Subaru have been removed. Are we clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so basically that's how, with remove, you need to give remove a particular value you want it to remove. Okay. Now, something which does something similar to remove, but in a different fashion, is what is called the pop method. Now the pop method, basically you have to give it the index of the value you want it to pop. You don't give it the value, but you give it the index. So you have to give it the position of the item or the value you want it to pop. If you don't give it anything, okay, so here, remove and return item at index. So if you don't give it anything, it will basically, if you just say cars.pop, if you just say cars.pop, then it's going to remove the last item in the list. Okay. So let's see an example. First, we're going to print out cars. We want to see what happens if we don't give the pop method an index. Print the list cars there. So these are our cars. Now if you just say pop the last item from the list without an index, so remove the last item from list cars. List cars. Not just remove, and let me say pop, because remove seems to be pop the last item. So in this case, if you want to pop the last item, you don't say anything. You just say cars, the name of the cars, the name of the list, which is cars. Then you say pop. When you do this, then this guy is going to be popped. The last item is going to be popped. So there, it shows you the value of the item it has popped. Then you print cars again. So here, if you print cars, then you see that that popped value is no longer in that cars. So you can see the popped value, which is VW, is no longer in that list. So if we just say pop cars.pop, you're basically removing the last item from a list. Okay. However, you can always find the index of an item. You can find the index of a particular item. Then once you find the index of a particular item, you can save that index as we are about to do. Then you can use that index to pop. For example, I want to find out how many times Kia or cars, so no, Kia, not Chevrolet, Kia, how many times Kia or cars in this list cars, return the number of occurrences for Kia. So okay, fine, Kia or cars once. Then next I want to find out what's the index of Kia. So return the index. So return the index of Kia in list cars. So I want to get the index of Kia. So I start with cars, then I put a dot, then index, then Kia. Okay, so Kia is index 20. Then store the index of Kia. Now I want to store this value, the 20. I want to store it. So store. So say store the index of Kia in list in variable. I want to store this in a variable called index, indi. So it's going to be that. So I will do that. So whatever, when I do this, Kia, this is what I get. This value, I get the value 20. But I want to store this value 20 in this index, indi or index, like that. I want to store it in that, or I want to store it in that. No, indi is better, like that. Then I want to print out indi. So I print out indi. print out variable. Indi, you can see it's 20. So I can use this indi now, since I know the value. I can use this indi to pop here from the list. So pop here. So pop here from list cars using value stored using index value using the index value stored in indi. Well, I could have just done this, I think. I think I is better. Yeah. Okay. There. So you can see Kia has been popped. Then next I count how many times Kia is there now. Since it has been popped, is it still there? So you see, Kia popped 0 times. So now there is no Kia in the list. Are we clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so basically that's how you would go about doing this bit. The other thing is tuples. Now, tuples have got a very serious. With a tuple, you can't change anything in a tuple. You can't make an assignment. You can't delete things from a tuple. So basically, tuples have got a very serious limitation. Okay. Now, a tuple is what you're going to have after you are happy with the list. So once you are happy with your list, you can change your list into a tuple. Okay? Are we clear? Once you are happy with your lists, you can change your list into a tuple. So most of the things, basically, most of the methods, the useful methods, they are there for lists. But for tuples, you're going to find that you actually have, I think it's just about 2 methods. And the 2 methods which are there for tuples, they do very little actually. I think one is index, the other one is count. Let's have a look. When it comes to tuples. Okay, so here. So we have a look at what methods are available with tuples. If you do that, you come here. Yeah, these are the only ones. 2 of them. Count and index. So here, since we are happy with our list of cars, we can create a tuple cars. We can convert our list cars into a tuple using the tuple function. So create that, converts. So let me say converts the list tuple, the list cars into a tuple. And that's what you're doing here. So a tuple, we've got the cars. We can print cars if we want to see what it is for the sake of seeing. So print list so that is what you have. Okay, Then we change this cars into a tuple, then we save it as cars, like that. Then you print out cars again. Now we are no longer printing a list, but now we're printing a tuple. Print a tuple. There. So you can see our lists, which was cars, has been converted into a tuple. Now, there's very little you can do with this. The first thing you can do is just count, and the other one is just get the index of something. So for example, how many times with the count method here? Just a minute. Okay. How many times does fiat exist in our tuple? So get help on tuple. Go on tuple count method. So basically, yeah, count method. How do we get the help? As usual, help. Then next, tuple, then count. So what does this do? Count, return. It says return the number of occurrences of a value in a tuple. So basically that's what it does here. So how many times does fiat occur in this tuple? So you start with the name of the tuple, which is cars. Then you put a dot, then count. Then how many times the value you want to count, which is fiat. It occurs once. Then how about Nissan? Cars. Then dot count. Then how many times does Nissan occur? Nissan also occurs once. Okay. Then there's something also called index. There's a method called index. Are we clear on what tuple is doing? It's the same thing it does with lists.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So we can also do the same thing with count here. Then there's also index. Index does the same stuff. It gives you the position of a value in a tuple. So here, so we say help, tuple, then index. There. Return the first index of value. So that's basically what it does. So in this case, we want the index of Suzuki. What's the index of Suzuki? There. You might want the index of these guys. The index of Nissan. Probably this one is better. Cars dot index, then Nissan. There. That's the index position. So for Suzuki it's at 1, the index position is at 1. Then for Nissan, the index position is 27. Then you can also check out also for Fiat, where we did a count for. So this is for Nissan. Nissan. And 1 for Fiat. Cars dot index Fiat. So position number 11. Okay. Yeah, so basically that's that for today. On these functions you can use only with lists and also only with tuples. For a tuple, there are only 2 functions. There's something called index and there's something called count. But for a list, there are 11 of them. Okay. Any question?
No question, sir.
Okay, so yesterday we did not have a class because you guys said you're the class. There's a clash on Monday. So the yesterday class, I'm going to move it to Thursday, same time. Thursday, 15 hours. So I'll create an online class on my Google Meet. Then I'll update the Moodle. So people should expect a class on Thursday, 15 hours. So we have Tuesdays, Thursday, and Friday. Okay. So we'll stop here today. The video recording is going to be posted,
Right, sir.
posted to YouTube, and also the link is going to be added in Moodle. Okay. So see you later. All right.
Right, sir. Thank you and have a good day.
All right. Cheers. Same to you.